The European Union is offering money to Turkey for its help in the refugee crisis. It's also promising to speed up talks on possible EU membership for Turkey. But is that enough? And can Turkey succeed where other countries have failed? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme in Doha. I'm Adrian Finnegan. After months of confusion and disputes on how to deal with the refugee crisis facing Europe, the EU has finally come up with what it hopes will be the solution. It struck a deal with Turkey to try to control the flow of asylum seekers. For over $3 billion, the EU desperately wants Turkey to keep refugees out of Europe. In exchange, its leaders have promised to open negotiations on a new chapter in Ankara's bid to join the bloc. They've also pledged to speed up the process of allowing Turkish citizens to visit the EU without a visa. So what else is in this deal? Well, under the agreement, Turkey will increase patrols in the Aegean Sea and on its land borders with Greece and Bulgaria. Ankara will have to crack down on human trafficking gangs. Turkey's also agreed to take back refugees whose asylum applications have been denied by EU countries. There are more than 2 million refugees in Turkey at the moment. The government says that much of that money will go to programmes set up to house, train and integrate them. Well, Turkey's Prime Minister says the main goal of the agreement is to assist Syrian refugees.
Now, together with the EU, we decided to have a mechanism, a joint action plan together, how to deal with this crisis, how to prevent new waves of refugees, how to manage the existing refugee crisis, and how to work together. This €3 billion is not given to Turkey. It is given to Syrian refugees. And it is the main philosophy here is burden sharing. And also resettlement and other practical issues will be consulted in the future. Turkey is ready to cooperate with every country individually and with the EU in general.
And the President of the European Council says that the EU has to do all it can to protect its borders.
Let me state clearly that we do not expect anyone to guard our borders for us. That can and should only be done by Europeans. But we expect a major step towards changing the rules of the game when it comes to stemming the migration flow that is coming to the EU via Turkey.
Well, more than 720,000 refugees have arrived in Europe so far this year, mainly via Turkey. The International Organization for Migration says that many are fleeing from conflict in Syria and lived in makeshift camps in Turkey. Here's a look at the route that they take. Their journey begins with a short but dangerous boat ride from Turkey to an island in Greece. Many of the refugees have no experience with boats and often can't swim. From mainland Greece, they then head up north through Macedonia. The long path overland through Europe takes them through Serbia. And then they continue on to Hungary, where they'll encounter tight border control security. The intention is to make their way further into Austria and Germany with the hope of building new lives. All right, let's get the thoughts of our guests for today's Inside Story. Joining us from Brussels, Alexandra Stiglmayer, Senior Analyst for the European Stability Initiative. From Istanbul, joining us via Skype is Şigden Nas, General Secretary of the Economic Development Foundation. And also in Brussels, we've got Marc Pierini, visiting scholar at Carnegie Europe and the former EU ambassador to Turkey. Welcome to you all. Marc, let's start with you. Is this a good deal?
Well, it's a good deal from the refugee standpoint, in the sense that after a long while, where initially Turkey turned down EU offers for assistance, now it is accepted, so this will be up to 3 billion for humanitarian assistance, but more importantly for education and job creation schemes, which is good for the refugees Syrian refugees in Turkey. Turkey will also pass a law to allow them to work locally, so that will improve the lot of of these people. But the key point here is about controlling the traffickers' network that have made about €1 billion this year, sending people across the Aegean Sea. And that shameful business should be put to an end.
Alexandra, what do you make of that? I have a feeling that you're going to tell me this deal does nothing except set the stage for failure in the coming months.
Yes, because for the EU, of course, the most important issue is to reduce the number of refugees coming to Europe. And the measures agreed yesterday will not do that. Also, the measure that Marc mentioned, fighting smuggling networks, it is very difficult to implement because they respond very quickly to demand. It's often refugees themselves who get organized and just organize a boat. It's only a few kilometers over to a Greek island. So we see the danger that the numbers will not go down. And then, of course, we'll see blame games, accusations, disappointment, frustration.
Shigdem, in Istanbul, this deal isn't going to slow the tide of refugees entering the EU, at least in the short term, is it? As Donald Tusk said yesterday, the EU can't outsource its obligations to any third country. Is this a good deal for Turkey?
Yes. I think it's a deal that is very realistic under the circumstances, but of course it brings nothing new to Turkey relations. What it does is to bring some sort of a renewed energy, especially on the part of the EU, to engage Turkey further into European integration process. So in a way, it is, I think, beneficial because it will trigger maybe progress in Turkey's EU relations. However, of course, there's a question mark whether or not it will really serve to deal with this problem of refugees or the continuing flow of refugees.
Marc, I'm puzzled. Why didn't the EU use the opportunity at this summit to raise some of the issues with Turkey that it's not entirely happy with? Human rights issues, media freedoms, the Kurdish issues, for example.
Yes, it's very surprising that this is not in the final statement, the joint statement of the summit. But probably this is because the EU leaders wanted this deal so dearly because there is political panic in Europe over the refugees that they sort of bowed to Turkey, at least not to put that in the statement. But if you zoom out a little bit from the discussion on refugees, you can see that the political context of this summit between the EU and Turkey has changed dramatically in the past few weeks. November 13, the Paris carnage. That has shed light on the fact that jihadists still come and go through Turkey to Syria from Syria, and the inquiry has shown connections. Secondly, November 16 in Antalya, the G20 summit, there President Obama, President Putin and others urged Turkey to put an end to oil smuggling from ISIL. So despite all the denials, despite the efforts made by Turkey recently, there is still a problem, and the political mood is one that has been described in a US newspaper as enough is enough. Therefore, the refugee deal is one thing, but it's only a small part of the overall picture. And what needs to be fixed is, first and foremost, the security aspect on the Turkish-Syrian border, then the refugee issue.
It makes it sound almost as though this was more of a PR exercise, a hurried PR exercise, rather than a genuine attempt to solve the problem.
Well, 3 billion is genuine, and therefore it will, as I said earlier, improve the daily life of a number of people. But you know, €1 billion just in traffickers' fees, and I'm not talking here of dinghy sales or outboard engines or life rafts, whatever. This is a huge business. This is a mafia. So Turkey has to realize that it is enduring the same challenge as European countries. This is not Turkey against the EU. The words have been used by Prime Minister Davutoglu. We are facing the same challenge. The reality now is whether Turkey will act jointly with the EU or not.
Let's put that to Şıktem for a moment. I mean, is Ankara genuinely going to work with the EU here to solve this problem?
Yes. I think I agree that it's a common problem. Turkey does not have the resources to deal with this issue alone. We have more than 2.2 million refugees at the moment, and this tide is continuing because of the continuing problem in Syria and Iraq. So we, of course, need cooperation of all international actors, and especially the European Union. So it's important, but I think we need burden sharing, more burden sharing on the part of the EU, and to turn this new initiative into a more sustainable and continued effort to deal with this problem on a humanitarian basis.
Alexandra, the EU offered several inducements to Turkey over and above the financial assistance that it's promised to speed up the visa liberalisation process, for example. Is Turkey making any progress in its commitments towards visa-free travel?
Just on one point, of course, although we say that there won't be a reduction in refugees coming to Europe now with the measures agreed, the summit is important because it is a first step towards a more workable solution. There's a number of member states, led by Germany, who are willing to take contingents of refugees directly from Turkey, so that these people don't have to cross the Aegean, that they don't have to cross the Western Balkans. And that would mean real, genuine burden sharing. Of course, the numbers must be substantial. I mean, we think it must be a minimum of 500,000 people per year who are taken over to the EU. And if this is agreed, then EU countries can also demand more from Turkey. For example, to take back all refugees that reach Greek islands, because that would not demand any militarification of the coast. It wouldn't demand shots fired or anything. It would be a more kind of orderly and polite process to return people. But what is very important is to give Turkey the feeling that there is burden sharing, because even today, after the deal, there were lots of comments in Turkey like, we don't want to become a concentration camps for the refugees from who want to go to the EU, we don't want to become a dumping house, etc. And on visa liberalization, I mean, per se, this is a very good thing, and we support it because it will lead to more travel, more business contacts, more experiencing each other's cultures. There are conditions attached to it. We would suggest that Turkey gets visa-free travel as soon as possible, and one can then review in a year or two if all the other conditions are fulfilled. Because there are, for example, human rights conditions.
Yeah, you talk about all the other conditions being fulfilled. That was the reason why I wanted to ask you that question, to establish what kind of partner Turkey is and how genuine it is. For instance, something else you touched upon there, Turkey and the EU agreed that the readmission agreement will become fully applicable from June next year. Perhaps you could explain briefly to our viewers what that means and whether it's actually going to make any difference to the number of people seeking asylum in the EU, because Turkey's not got a good record on that so far, has it?
Yes. I mean, readmission basically means that one country can return people to another country. Usually it's the nationals of that country, and what needs to be agreed, how, when, who to contact, which categories of people, who will receive them, etc. This readmission agreement between EU and Turkey also covers third country nationals. So Turkey should take back third country nationals. But that can be only people who don't receive asylum in the EU, and it's very few because, for example, Syrians, 95% of them get asylum. Afghans, the recognition rate is 65%. And it should be people who come to the EU directly from Turkey. But since they leave Greece again and go to the Western Balkans, Turkey can say, sorry, they went via Serbia, they came directly from Serbia. So we do not think that it will really bring much relief to the EU.
Marc, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, that was an important point Alexandra made. You have about 60% of the refugees coming through the Aegean who are Syrians, but you also have quite a large number of Afghans and Pakistanis. They enter Turkey rather easily, and then they just proceed to Izmir or Ayvalık or Bodrum and cross the Aegean. Under the readmission agreement, which is the quid pro quo for the visa facilitation, Turkey will have to take control of these people and take them back, assuming that they're not eligible to refugee status. And of course, if you're coming from Syria, you're very likely to get refugee status. If you're coming from elsewhere, it's less likely. So you also have another secondary problem, which is the forged Syrian passports. There is a huge market for this in Turkey and elsewhere, because everybody wants to be a Syrian, knowing that it will be more probable to get asylum status.
Marc, where is the money going to come from? This 3.2 billion euros? Which member states are going to be required to fund this deal?
Well, at the moment, we cannot tell. This is an ongoing discussion between the Commission and member states, and there is an argument about how much should come from the EU budget, which has its own limitations, and how much should come from member states. So this discussion is now going on, together with a discussion between the Commission and Turkey on where to use the money. Obviously, 3 billion are not needed tomorrow. It will be spread over 2 years in the view of the EU, perhaps less in the view of Turkey. But in any case, you have to find the proper projects. You have to spend the money in an appropriate way. And not all refugees, Syrian refugees, for example, in Turkey, are easy to reach, because only 280 to 300,000 are in camps in the southeast of Turkey. All the others are on their own in cities, Istanbul, Izmir, Ankara, everywhere, and therefore they're not that easy to reach. And if you want to give them incentives to work or education in Arabic, all of that is pretty complicated, and the Commission is going to do that now.
And Çiğdem, is this money going to be enough? The tide of migrants that Turkey is having to deal with now isn't going to stop anytime soon, is it, until Syria's war comes to an end?
Yes, I don't think it is enough because it's an ongoing issue. I mean, we have now new, again, refugees arriving because of the, again, ongoing military operations in Syria, in Iraq, and also from elsewhere. So it's not something that you can just deal with by providing 3 billion euros. And also, if you look to the readmission agreement and the criteria that Turkey has to fulfill for the visa liberalization roadmap, we have a total of 72 different criteria, and these include very complicated, let's say, conditions that Turkey has to fulfill, dealing with the refugees, establishing camps where refugees, and especially those who are readmitted from the EU, can be hosted. Also, strengthening Turkey's border controls, establishing a new border management system, establishing a task force for the management of borders. So it is a very diverse issue and needs a lot of technical and financial assistance from the European Union. And of course,
Çiğdem, I just wanted to ask you how much progress Turkey is making towards those 72 commitments.
In the report that the Commission published last year, there was some progress, moderate progress on the part of Turkey, especially with regard to, for example, the revision of passports. Also, Turkey started a new action plan to establish a border guard system. So there was some progress, but of course it's not enough, because Turkey is also under a huge flow, under the burden of a huge migrant flow, a refugee flow. So it could not really make the progress that was intended. And also we had, of course, elections in the previous months, which also, I think, prevented progress on the action plans, on the fulfillment of the criteria. So, of course, we have to do a lot of work. We now have a date, which is October 2000.
Now, I think we seem to have lost Çiğdem then. Alexandra, another of the carrots that the EU offered Turkey was to open another chapter in the EU accession talks. 34 negotiating chapters there are in total, and so far only 14 of them been opened. I mean, what sort of carrot was that to offer? Will opening another make any difference in what seems to be an excruciatingly slow process?
I don't think it will make much of a difference, especially this chapter is about economic and monetary affairs. It deals with the independence of the central bank. So Turkey should make sure that its central bank is independent, which it isn't at the moment. And I don't see why the government would want to do that. So it will be a symbolic gesture. There's also talk to open more chapters, but they have been blocked by Cyprus. So I think we will see this one opening. In effect, not much will change, but both sides can say that there has been progress in the accession talks.
And we have Şigdem back. Şigdem, you were in the middle of explaining to me the progress that Turkey was making, and it's a pretty difficult task, you said.
Yes, and there were some interruptions because of the dual elections that we had in previous months. So the government was not really able to put into action the action plans with regard to the fulfillment of the criteria. And we have a quite short, let's say, time period in which to complete the criteria. And also there are very tricky conditions that the EU wishes Turkey to fulfill, such as the geographic limitation that Turkey has placed on the 1951 Geneva Convention on Refugees. And Turkey has declared that it can only lift the geographical limitation when it becomes a member of the European Union. However, the EU wants it sooner in order to let's say, qualify for the visa liberalization. Okay. So there are also some tricky issues, some delicate issues that has to be dealt with. So we will see how it will go on, but it's not an easy process.
Marc, you've been pretty upbeat about this deal. Chancellor Merkel says the agreement will replace illegal migration with legal migration. You're pretty confident that it will do that, are you?
Well, in time, that's what the agreement should do. The first test will be whether Turkey politically wants to play this issue, the refugee crisis, together with the EU. That is perhaps, at least at the level of the joint statement, the novelty in this summit. Not the accession at all, but this intention to work on this together. Now, ideally, what the German Chancellor wants is to be able to stem the flow and then decide who comes, who doesn't come, and so on and so forth, because Germany needs manpower. Germany is currently losing 150,000 people every year by the sheer balance between birth and death. So Germany needs migration. And therefore, there is room for migration from Syria. But of course, it takes an enormous effort about languages, job requalification, and an orderly management of the process. So that's the intention. We're perhaps not going to get there that quickly. What is going to happen is that this is now nearly winter. Therefore, the flow of people through the Aegean, as in any single year, will slow down because it becomes very difficult to cross the Aegean. Hopefully, with some better policing of the traffickers, this will also slow down. And then gradually we'll get this under control.
All right, we've got about a minute left here. Alexandra, it's no deal is ever perfect. This is a particularly imperfect one. What do you think should have been agreed?
No, we think that it's very important that the EU or a coalition of willing member states take refugees directly from Turkey, so they don't need to cross the Aegean and the Western Balkans, but that Turkey really commits to readmission much more than envisaged under the EU-Turkey readmission agreement or the Turkey-Greece readmission agreement. There must be genuine burden sharing, and both sides have to do their bit. And that would then be replacing illegality with legality, as Merkel said. But to reach that, we need to take further steps.
And is Turkey a willing partner, Alexandra?
I think it could be if it sees its own interest, and it has been good towards the refugees. In the sense, it is the country hosting most refugees in the world at the moment, according to UNHCR. 2.2 million Syrians, 300,000 Iraqis, etc. But it also has its limits. There are also in the population, there's rising hostility. A lot of the Syrians work on the black market, so they take away jobs, work for half the money, etc. So I think that Turkey could have an interest to see like a proper agreement with the EU emerge.
OK, there, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Alexandra Stiglmayer, in Brussels, Stiglmayer in Istanbul, and also in Brussels, Marc Pierini. And thank you, as always, for watching. Don't forget you can leave your comments on our programme page at the website aljazeera.com. You can also post your views on facebook.com/AJ Inside Story, or you can tweet us at AJ Inside Story. From me, Adrian Finnegan, and all the team here in Doha, thanks for watching. We'll see you again. Bye for now.